filled with little difficulties that have to do with the representation you're looking at. So, I don't know what the first thing in the phase was. The depots phase. I looked at the U.S. depot and I'm like, yeah, that's fun. There should be. I think the Mexicans have a depot available. I don't remember the ordering of them, but I didn't really need one until I'm going to make an invasion. And I think I'm not allowed to place one until I make the invasion. Anyway, if I'm going to make one. So I've got 2 new leaders coming on. I got Jeff Davis and Kearney. Kearney's very good. He can't command a big force, though. But he's got a good combat command, and he's got the capability to reduce the chances of unit disintegration. So that's appealing. Now, what I'm looking at with him is I should send him out west to go take as much of California as he can. Well, if you start looking at California, Santa Fe is appealing, but it's got a 20-point cost to go to. Whereas only an 11-point cost, I can make it to El Paso. The problem with that, though, is that I don't have an easy route to a 10-point morale space this turn, if I do that. So maybe splitting the difference is going to Chihuahua and then pushing up. And then I won't have to pay that 10-point, that 20-point cost that it's going to cost me to get to Santa Fe. I can do it in little bits. But there are problems, like Valverde is not a pleasant place, and I may want to move 2 spaces there, which and just kind of bypass it. I don't remember the conquest rolls, but anyway, what I think I'm going to do is try to push into Chihuahua and get my 10-pointer there, and that gives me some time with Taylor's force. But then, in order to do this, I have to figure out what I'm going to send where. So here, I have some regulars and some cav. I've got additional forces coming in, though, on turn 2. Only 2 seasoned infantry. So I probably want to send some of my 14 regular infantry this way. And then, to understand that, I have to look over here and understand his El Paso, which is only 1 strength point. I can probably blow through that with the 5-to-1 overrun. But over here in California, he's sitting with a total of 5 strength points, most of which is not very good. So I can aim for that. And I can always come back down if and after I capture important stuff here. But San Francisco is tasty, so I probably do want to just march up there and get those points. And there isn't a lot of time in the game. So another thing I have to do is look over the sequence of where Mexican troops come in. None of them are coming in California that I see. Wait, no, that's initial setup. Yeah. Everything's kind of presented in a way that it's hard to discern all the information you need. Going from the map with its point-to-point system and these weird lines that it's not clear whether you want to move over them or not. And the setup of reinforcements and everything is designed in a way that makes you feel like, they probably didn't push this by people who have never played this game before and just hand them this rulebook. And from what I've seen of 3W, I would have to say, it doesn't feel like their game's got any blind testing at all. What's amazing is that there's anything like a reasonable system when they go off, completely off the rails of like established design and come up with something like this. I kind of fucked up. Kearney actually shows up in Independence with an infantry and with a regular infantry and a cav. That's enough to grab Santa Fe, but that's not enough to make this movement for California as a whole. So let me keep looking and seeing what else I get. I am going to have a hard time moving things until Wool comes, and he's not terribly good. Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time moving Kearney if I don't give him better forces. What I may want to do, though, is move him here for 12 movement points with his bonus units there, and then prepare for an attack into Chihuahua. I'm a little iffy with that because I'm putting quite a force to go take California. But there's a fair-sized little army in California that I can't just leave there if I'm going to gain points from them. Those are split up. Kearney has to start here with these units. And that puts me in a position where I can grab Santa Fe, get my 10-point area pretty easily. However, I do still want to keep him a force reserved for him, but the problem is I move here, that's 12, I can't slide right back down just grabbing Santa Fe and saying that's good. It's going to take me some time. I could slide back to here and then I'm only 15 away, but that's no different from being 20 away. I'm a turn away from picking up those forces and I can't pick them up and move them. So that's kind of problematic. The Mexicans get to play down too. They got an extra conscript over here. They got some troops down in Veracruz, which I probably don't want to leave there with. And then I got Robles, who got additional forces here in Mexico City. And so he's increased the size of his forces. And maybe to the point where with that 2-point bonus, it's worth moving. So getting 10 extra would throw me to the 20. A -2 means I survive that. So I can inch forward with some of these Mexican forces now that I have a decent commander. Not only is he a -2 to the die roll, but he's also a damn good commander. So I want to get him up to the front quickly, but I want to ferry units there. So we might be seeing a fall back away from Taylor. Now, where the hell are we in the sequence of play? We haven't gotten very far, but I think we're on the U.S. turn. We do not roll for Polk and Decision yet, Veracruz, any of that. So we're going to be on the United States land movement. And now I can try to accomplish those things. But I'm pooped already just dealing with all these papers, just like I was with Blood Royale and a lot of things these days. So I'm going to pause a bit. U.S. movement, I'm going to summarize. Kearney moved up here and has grabbed Santa Fe, and that's a big deal, and he didn't lose any units from it. Now, I could go back to independence, but that doesn't really do me much good, and maybe I want to march further and take my shot at San Francisco or whatever. Zach Taylor is going to attack here against those units that he routed before. And this could be a more painful retreat. We got to go back towards Mexico City, so we got to go over that 12, I think. And Jeff Davis ran down here. Oh, Taylor lost a cav strength point, which I don't know where it's supposed to go. Jeff Davis moved down here with his forces. He lost a strength point of his regular infantry, and then he ran back to gather up the forces that moved from New Orleans. Now, this is where things are screwy. So Davis's troops have to be copied into Matamoros, and the forces that move there have to be copied under Davis. Leadership shouldn't be the defining value of the force boxes. They should have given more generic force box units, so you don't have to recopy. You just change the name of the leader on it. Could I do that myself? Presumably. Presumably I could. It would be useful to have a counter, though, that represents that. My other forces, so like the Jeff Davis unit is now the Matamoros force, and I'm starting to copy that down. But it's not going to be that next turn. It's going to be something, it's probably going to Well, we'll see. It may be stuck there because it's in Mexican territory and can't advance until Davis comes down and joins them. I just wanted more forces here in case Taylor gets flung back or whatever, and this gives them a chance to recuperate. A big 12-point recuperation while you're just sitting there. So it's one of the weird things. You do want to move forces to the front. These guys, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing with them. I'd have to look at the turns I'm going to get reinforcements for, but I really would like to shift force. I think they're the only time that I can get things anywhere in Texas. And that anywhere in Texas is a big deal. Let's see. My next turn that I give is way over here. So that's going to be U.S. turn 5. I get 4 regular infantry. So this is the only time when I get a force big enough to go take the California garrison out, in my mind at least. Maybe the weaker force could do it, you know, with all the advantages the U.S. has, in which case I'm probably wasting forces I need down in Mexico. I've been paying attention to Don Putia's forces here. We end up with not as good a setup for battle. Taylor got some kind of lousy rolls. He's ending up with a class 3 overall. The Ampudia class 3. That means the class is 3. It's 3 unmodified. The attacker's class with no penalties or bonuses. So the combat odds are 1 to 2 to begin with 2 shifts in favor of the U.S. and no terrain, so no shifts for that, I think. It's hard to read, but it doesn't look like there's anything there. Now that will put us to the leadership modifiers, which is 2 for the Mexicans and 4 for the U.S., but the Mexicans have two heavy artillery points there, which I should actually combine into 1 unit eventually, but I can't right now because what? Because they have different amounts of friction points. Okay. Just making sure. So that means we're rolling with no modifiers on us on the 2 to 1 on the class 3 table. This is going to be bad for the defender no matter what. Interesting. I thought it was going to be worse than it is. It's a 4, so it's in the medium. So I'm going to get a retreat, and I believe I have to retreat towards Mexico City, which means I have to fall back this way. So I'm going to pick up 13 more penalty. This territory is captured, and I have to roll disintegration rolls for all of the Mexican forces that just retreated. And cav. So let's take a look. I have 3 cav. Taylor probably does not. Taylor has none. He lost his only cav. Ampudia is badly hurt by this. He ends up with only 6 strength points left, 4 seasoned units, and 2 cav. Feels like after a few battles you might become seasoned if you're regular, and regular turn up to conscript, or conscript turn up to regular. Maybe I'm just thinking Imperium Romanum type thoughts here. But yeah, we've got now La Vega is actually combined with Damputita or whatever. I have to figure out, you know, what I want to do about that, whether I want to actually combine them. One factor, though, is the attack this way is all good and great, but if I want to face less problems, I might want to split down south once President Polk is okay with that. That's not for a couple of turns though. And let's see, we put a little marker here as we were effective. I don't think we recovered any units, and now we go to the Mexican turn, and it's going to be really hard for the Mexicans to do anything about this. And that's actually one of the things that is problematic about the war. You'll see this in Halls of Montezuma, if I recall correctly, as well, where the Mexicans have a hard time doing shit. They just really don't want to engage in quite the same way. I do have this one leader who's kind of nice, and I would like to defend this space and prevent, what, a 15-point morale swing, but we've got some ugly morale checks. Let me make sure that morale is only generated from taking territories, because I'm not absolutely positive of that. Maybe it's happening due to casualties as well, in which case I've already probably gone beyond what I can figure. So I was correct as far as I can tell. There's nothing about losses affecting morale, just cities taken. For the Mexican turn, did a bunch of things. Rested, which is a big deal. My army's a little bigger now, but not necessarily particularly healthier. The problem is Taylor's army is getting fatigued, and maybe I want to rest, you know? Why is it so unfatigued is my question. This is an interesting question. Taylor... because it's 2 friction points, 3 friction points. Yeah, it's only 5 friction points. Okay, fair enough. This is a big expense. I'm not sure I want to go from 5 to 17, which gives me a third of my force gets eliminated. Whereas if I just go from 0 to 12, it's only a sixth of my seasoned units. My regulars are still going to be a problem. They're going to go 517, so I'm going to lose some of them, but I only have one. And the biggest problem is Taylor doesn't have a very big army here. He's got to wait for some of Davis's troops to come up, so that'll work okay. And Robles pushed some forces up. Now, he can only command 6 units because he's a little guy. And did I cheat? This is an interesting question. Did I cheat when I went to Matamoros? I might not have been able to bring all those forces. Yes, I did. Crappies. So I've got to leave some forces behind because Jeff Davis can only carry 6 strength points with him as well. So I pulled too much stuff here, and anything that I lost, too bad. But I'm going to have to pull some of those units back. Hard to remember, you know, when you only have a couple counters on the board. Yeah, I can't move those couple counters. Oh, maybe I better look that up, see if that's correct. What about Kearney? Well, he certainly could move 2 strength points, but I put way more than he can move here, which also probably was a mistake. And I probably shouldn't have that many there. Fuckies. Oh, God. Yeah, I caught myself with Robles, and I'm like, well, all the units can move. It's just some of them don't get the advantage of his strength point, of his organizational bonus. But that's not the case when I'm shipping troops down into Mexico. Ruh-roh. Quick rearrangement. Davis has now 16 strength points of regulars sitting here at Corpus Christi for whatever the value that is. There's no way the Mexicans are going to be able to invade. I don't know. Maybe there is something secret I can do. I'm sending some leaders moving around from the Mexicans. La Vega heading down here. He gives, you know, some military capability for Veracruz. Makes that landing harder if it's going to happen, because I got plenty of leaders up here, and then I'm going to send this guy up to California to deal with Kearney. He gives me that organizational bonus that'll allow him to shift around. I really could use a military bonus, but I don't want to waste my one good guy from down in Mexico. So what do we get? We have pulled 2 territories in. Camargo, not familiar. So that's worth 5. And then the 10 points for Santa Fe. So that's 15 U.S. morale is added, and 15 Mexican morale is lost. And the U.S. made their total They're a 10-point city. They gained a 10-point town this turn. They may have trouble doing that next turn. I don't see myself being able to push into Monterey next turn, and I'm going to be shifting things around. So I'll probably take the 5-point penalty next turn, and that is the end of turn 2. I done got myself in a shitty position. Kearney up here threw himself out of supply. That's a problem. Now, I remember there being something about forces of size 6 or smaller being able to live off the land, though, so it doesn't matter. If I can find that. Which works great. But yeah, I'm looking and I'm like, oh shit. If I could go through here 1, 2, 3, I'd be fine, but I can't yet. I don't own this. I didn't take it. Of course, Kearney could go, could run down here to take command of those, or more likely Jeff Davis could grab this. That would allow me to get it for next turn. But I've been using him to shuttle troops around. Yeah, so from here I can't reach because there's no connection through here. I gotta go through this. I could go back here 1, 2, but again, that doesn't get me there. But if I put it back in New Orleans, it would work 1, 2, 3, right? Or I could put it in Austin, but again, then that cuts off stuff that's more important. But I'm pretty close to the end of my supply line, obviously, because even going with that, 1, 2, 3, and I don't get my second and third for a while, as far as I know. So I'm going to have to look up some of the supply rolls. But my understanding is I do not get those until the turn of the Veracruz invasion. So like, I'm kind of piddling around here. And again, I kind of remember something like that in Halls of Montezuma, where like the U.S. gets kind of bogged down too. No, Taylor is not that much bigger than 6 strength points. He's currently sitting on 8. This turn I'm going to rest. I want to recover these force points. But when I look at Impundia, he's sitting on 7 and 7, 14 strength points. 8 is 1 to 2. We did that already. Do I want to grab 12 more here? That puts me into the 17 range. I could start losing units at a high rate. I don't want to do that yet. So yeah, I'm going to rest with Taylor this turn. Although I could send like Worth up with a strength point or something. The problem is Worth really helps my combat capability. And I don't think he's going to attack me. I could offset some of the morale costs that I'm going to be paying this turn, because I'm not going to be able to take a 10-point area this turn. Again, and this is because the damn names are on here, they did not design these sheets well. They should have designed them simply as forces and let you put whatever you want on top of them, the name of the town they're on or whatever. Because you got to put the name of the town they're on here to help find them anyway. Or the leader. Well, instead of having pre-written leaders, just writing them in. And I think I'm going to start doing that at this point. I'm going to remove Kearney from here. In fact, if I have any whiteout, I think my wife has some. I may just white out those leaders, but I could just scratch them out and write things in. Because it doesn't really make sense to keep recopying all the units under him when all I really need to do is change what is identifying that location. The term capture is well defined in the game, but I think if what I'm going to play is if Davis moves through here, he captures it, even though he doesn't garrison it. I was playing something very recently. What the fuck was it? Shit, I don't remember what I was just playing. Oh, Blood Royale, where you had to stop in a location in an area and spend your end of your movement to capture a location. I don't think that's how I'm doing it. This system is really hard to get used to, but what we've got is Kearney move down to take command of those forces. Start moving, maybe here, grab a 10-point city next turn. Davis moved some forces down, lost them. This is going to be captured. He moved through here to get down there. This would have put me to another risk where it would have doubled my losses essentially, so that didn't seem worthwhile. Taylor's just sitting there recovering. He could push forward with just 6 units, so the Mexicans have to consider whether they want to push against Taylor, you know, or move more forces up into Monterey or whatever here. Yeah. I'm feeling the same kind of feelings that I felt when I first faced war games in terms of what the fuck am I doing? What's going on? This may be even harder though, you know. Remember, those are sort of time-tried systems that worked a lot of the kinks out of the basic mechanisms. It's not like I'm finding something that's horribly impossible. It's just the bookkeeping side is difficult, and then the conceptualization and point-to-point maps make conceptualization difficult in and of themselves for me. And then add to that, you know, I've got everything recorded on paper instead of real units on the board. It all starts adding these layers of, I can't tell for sure what's going on. And in some ways it almost feels like a space game to me because of that. You know, it's like, it reminds me of things like, what the hell, Fifth Frontier War, or, you know, where everything's away in their holding boxes. Just because I've got this, you know, connected graph, which is essentially how I move. Now, I think there are ways to move outside the movement lanes, just like there are in Imperium in that. But yeah, they're not efficient. You really want to move along the main lines, and it's very hard. I don't feel like I'm playing a land campaign. And some of it's the bubble map, you know, that's always the case, but the abstraction of CDG type play throws another kink into that when you're playing those, where it's like, okay, I'm only able to move one piece, so I look all over the place to find that piece, you know. But here I'm able to move everything, and it's bubble map, and it's like, it really feels more like a space game to me than a regular board game, or a regular board war game. Hard call for me. I'm moving Robles up with some of the better forces. They spend 14. He's safe from that because he's got a -2 organizational ability. These guys are sitting here, moving some leaders around. Other than that, kind of holding. The big question is De Ampudia, whether he wants to attack Taylor. Now that's a 12-point move. I'm likely to take some casualties with that. I'll probably leave the conscripts behind if that's the case, because they're kind of doomed. What about the regulars at 22 under De Ampudia? Well, so here's the thing. I could spend a turn recovering Robles next turn and then try and attack later. And I think that's my best move. But if I went right now, I could first of all bring Robles in with his forces. That would bring them up to a 26 at -2. I would only lose a sixth of my forces, so that's like a strength point probably. But I would also be up at a friction point of 26, which means my combat class is going to suck. And that's sort of the issue here too. But the Ampudia is not going to be able... These are the best combat classes I'm going to be at. So what if I just attacked with him? I would be bringing 9, 13 in against Taylor's 5, 6, 7, 8. That's still only 1 to 1. I think I'd rather bring the additional forces in, but then there's the problem that, you know, Taylor can bring another 6 strength points in. So I don't know if I'm just holding off here or if I can actually make a push. The fact that there's this large stack here and that there's these forces back here that haven't moved forward. This is all kind of a reason to move now and hit now while the U.S. forces are weak and in Mexico. But again, a recovery turn for these guys would then allow me to attack on the 12 table, or move on the 12 table. These guys would be at 0. This guy's at 0. I could bring maybe my reserves with Robles, because that's only 6 guys. So that would get me onto the 22 table. They'd be equally... I'd lose about 1/6 of my force, and I could launch everything except the conscript. And that's only 1 strength point in there. And that sounds kind of appealing, but that's going to be 2 turns from now, you know? It takes a long time to get your army ready to move. I like that aspect. That feels, okay, maybe not at a month a turn, but again, I'm not terribly familiar with this, this campaign, but that feels kind of nice. Well, you can keep pressing your units and they'll build up friction points where you can sit back and relax. And that feels kind of like something that would fit nicely in a Civil War type atmosphere too, although certainly not month-long turns with these little amounts of movement that you're able to make. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about the Victory Games American Civil War and the fact that, like, yeah, you know, if you pulse a unit once or twice, and there you have nothing like this friction. What you have there is the commander's ability to move is just the thing. And the idea is, well, in a month you could basically move across the map, but you wouldn't. Well, the you wouldn't there doesn't have to do with the cost to the marching troops, but rather the initiative of the officer in charge. And I'm wondering if there's something that sort of fits nicely on this, but doesn't cost the same kind of attrition. Now, obviously, the Mexican War had a higher attrition problem than the American Civil War did. This terrain is not good. Okay, I think we're done, which means the U.S. gets 2 points, but they lose 5, so they lose 3. And the Mexicans just lose the 2 for the location that we just lost. Oops. Gotta be careful, that stupid 10. I hate that being there. That means this drops down and Mexican morale is below 200 for the first time. It pushes us here. Hey, I can invade the U.S. Yeah, okay. It's been a while since I've played any at all, but the U.S., these forces recovering up here a little bit. Kearney has moved into Chihuahua to get me the 10 points that I wouldn't get, that I need to get every turn, or else I take penalties. Jeff Davis shuttles some forces into Taylor's hands and then continues back up to Corpus Christi, where he'll bring more forces down. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I kind of don't have enough force to do anything on this front. First of all, but there's also the supply line penalty as well. I would have to get that supply line closer And I just, there's no way to do that. I need another supply depot to get any further than I am. So getting Taylor some additional strength points here makes sense. I want to keep Wool with him because that gives me more command capability in the battle. And I'm kind of at loggerheads. The only thing I can really do is funnel more troops into there to hold the line. I guess that's about it. Life's been hard. Walking a lot and sleeping a lot. So now on to the Mexican side. Let's see how they can react. There probably isn't much they can do, but if I can break Taylor, that would be a big deal. The question is whether I can get up enough gumption to try, you know, among other things. Remember what I'm doing, but it looks to me like La Vega moved units that I mean to leave somewhere like Mexico City. I can't fucking tell. These definitely came from Mexico City. I don't think I was moving that slowly. I did a big swap with leaders or something. So, I don't fucking remember. But I just don't think that I moved onto the 15 column or whatever and took losses. Well, no, he took losses, I think. I don't know. I don't fucking know what I'm doing. So, yeah, he's at his 10 FP, which means he's recovered. So what I'm looking at is this guy, who, I don't remember where the fuck La Vega started, though. Let me try to figure this out. Okay, so supposedly La Vega started in Monterrey, which doesn't exist where I'd expect it to be, and it doesn't exist anywhere I don't expect it to be. I don't know if it fucking exists. I thought it did. There's El Paso. I mean, Monterrey should be over here, not over there. But there's nothing, you know, there's nothing down there. I don't fucking know what happened. Yeah, I got no idea. Fuck me. Oh no, it's like a mountain. It's like Mount Monterey. There it is. So Monterey is here. Not where you'd expect it. I clearly wouldn't have pushed troops out of there. I think he probably was in charge of those Mexico City troops. So it took him at least one turn to get down there. He wouldn't have added 20. He would have added 10. That would be turn 2. Turn 3, he would have had to rest. And it's turn 4 now. So I'm going to put those troops back in Mexico City. I think that's where they're from. I remember leaving something, but I thought I took everything up. I don't know. Sense, because from here it's 26, although I don't know if he was here. You know, what I'm saying is he wouldn't have been able to make it. Oh wait, no, from here, yeah, I have no fucking clue. I'm just gonna throw them back to Mexico City. Now I gotta remember to erase them. Oh, they might be somewhere else on the sheet as well. I gotta make sure number 6 isn't somewhere else. He has no troops with him. Where is number 6? Well, it doesn't fucking exist. I don't know. My best guess, number 6 is here, is that those units just don't exist. Those units got absorbed into something else and I forgot to erase them. That makes more sense than anything else anyway. But you can see what a nightmare this causes. Now, obviously, it would be easier if I hadn't taken 2-3 days off in between moving some pieces, but makes expensive shuffling around, and it ended up expensive because it cost me half my cavalry. That was unlikely. There was only a 1 in 6 chance of each piece dying, and 3 out of 6 did. Robles moved down here. He's going to be leading the San Luis Potosi, which are now over on him because they were on Arista, because I found trying to keep what I was doing with Kearney or whatever, I just can't handle that shit. So yeah, I'm erasing everything and putting everything where it goes, and that's just horrible. But Robles is going to ferry some more regulars up. Meanwhile, Amputia, or whatever, is recovering as much of his force as he can. Next turn, he should be able to hit Taylor, and he could actually bring Robles up at a march for 26. That's a painful march, and there's a chance I'll be losing stuff. But if I can beat Taylor, that would be kind of neat. It might change the dynamics in terms of Kearney and whatever. I looked up here, and this is my Cali force, and I've got 2 units, 1 cav, 1 regular, that aren't too bad, 10 friction points on the regular. And then I've got a damn conscript. So if I wanted to move, say, here, I'd be on the 35 all the way up here. Now remember, the 2 doesn't count, but basically I'd have a 50-50 chance of losing each of the conscripts. But if I don't take them, I have the same strength as the U.S. forces and worse friction points, so I'm going to be attacking in a worse class. I probably can't attack at all. So there's really nothing I can do from that side. I could move up here, but remember, this 10 here is not the morale value. I could jump way up here if he's putting a threat up there, but I'll see that coming. So that's the main reason I have him there, is to help defend, but there's no leader here anymore. Anyway, the net effect of all of this is really that this game makes it's a pain in the fucking ass, but the US gets its 10 morale points, which is important, and Mexico loses 10, which is important, and there's some special numbers that I don't remember, but it's like 110 Mexican morale, so I'm not going to look it up yet. And we move to the next turn, and maybe I'll take another few days off, because I mean, this is really hideously painful. The only thing going for it is there aren't that many pieces on the board in terms of movable forces, but wow, you can see why this design did not catch on. It is virtually unplayable. At any size greater than this, it would be completely unplayable. At this, well, I mean, some of it's it's a new design, that you have to get used to. But it's a new design that in and of itself is close to unplayable. And being a new design just pushes it a little further in that direction. Obviously, if it was a bigger game, it would be much, much worse, no matter what. Trying to keep track of all this shit. On turn 5, this is a reinforcement turn for both sides. Reinforcements are placed early. Jeff Davis got 4 more infantry regulars. He can't ferry everything down as it stands, but that's okay. and I hope this is turning. This is where the withdrawal is. That's what's indicated there, not a reinforcement turn. And Santa Ana alone shows up in Mexico City. Now this is kind of interesting, because I would love to bring Santa Ana in for this attack, but Davis could make it down here for 11. Regular puts that up to 16. Yeah, there's some chance of death, but if I move quickly, I can get everything in against Taylor and maybe beat him. And I feel like that might be a more valuable thing. We'll see what the U.S. does. Actually, it may be too late, because Davis might come running down anyway. So we'll see. We'll see where he goes. Didn't work too well. Davis lost, and I've got him down in Matamoros here instead. Half of the 6 strength points he brought. He only brought them to here. I didn't want to push things. I still have Kearney to consider as well. The combat system is, of course, as painful as everything else in the game, even for a small fight. The U.S. managed to get a 4-to-1 attack, but they were way over on the 4 class. They ended up with an exchange, even with Kearney's advantages. It's very unlikely. So the game has very, very... the extreme results aren't all that extreme. You know, like a 1 is the same as the 2 through 5. A 6 is a half exchange instead of an exchange. It's a big deal, the difference. The difference in each result is significant, but you're almost assured to get sort of that middling value. And he got that and took losses. Those losses are recoverable by these units, though. And that's one of the reasons I did that, is that Kearney can take Valverde and Socorro and move up here and then reinforce additional forces down and push his way across to take the rest of California. At least that's my hope. I don't know if Taylor did any recovery. I think he did a little bit. But yeah, that's the U.S. positioning there. Now it's on to the Mexicans. Do we want to hit Taylor? Almost certainly. We cannot bring Santa Ana in, though, if we do that, because that's 24, 36. You can only go 30, except where the sheet says 31 in error. Looking at my numbers here on the Pudia, and they are not good. He's got a lot of friction points on these armies. I may need to recover. I don't like that at all. I shift Santa Ana and Robles here. Again, those numbers were not good. I'm noticing the Puna is holding 26, this heavy artillery, and I don't have that written down anywhere. I don't think I lost 2 heavy artillery, but I don't fucking remember. Did they disappear? Is this counter, is this counter there in error, or did I cause them to vaporize? I don't think I took losses on them. Trying to remember what they... So heavy artillery, unlike field artillery, does have a number associated with it. It has an 8. So it's possible they got lost in the retreat here, because I know I had 2 of them in the battle, but I don't think I would have taken them as losses unless they took losses from retreating, and I'm gonna guess that they did, so I'll just vaporize them, but I can't remember. And that means that I have these 2 leaders present to start playing around with and moving places, in addition to other things. I can't make the attack on Taylor. I'm not in a good enough position. And again, I mean, that's just really a crapshoot as to which way that goes. Oh, at some point we have to roll for, I think it's next turn, the Zach Taylor, the Polk, how excited Polk is about doing this. Yeah, that's going to be next turn, so I gotta put something down there to indicate that next turn something interesting's happening. Of course, that's not recorded on here, is it? Okay. So, and there might be, maybe the Veracruz happens next turn too, but I think it happens. I think you make the roll on turn 8, but I don't know. You gotta look this shit up each time. I moved him down to Mexico City. I think I get reinforcements there. These other commands they can be commanded by the forces that are holding them, but I'm not really impressed with the opportunities there. Again, Davis is going to be able to reinforce Taylor probably, so my opportunity may be passing. The heavy artillery, I have no idea. I've got to go with the fact that I erased them. You know, that could have been an error in moving things around all over the place, or maybe I know I lost one. I know I lost one. And that means this goes. That's going to be 2 morale for the U.S. and 2 morale off for Mexico. But the U.S. loses 5 morale. Remember, I got to avoid hitting 0 with the U.S. And of course, this sheet, instead of having a 0 on it, has a 10 on it, which is totally useless to me. I'm using this side as the 0, I guess. I don't know. And that is the end of turn 5. And I'm going to load this fucker up. But you can see how much fun it is. It's actually a really cool design if it weren't for the effort involved in the type of tracking. Some more counters, a la, say, the Zucker designs, where you have sheets that track what's on each leader's command, and you could, you know, have some holding boxes elsewhere. Would work pretty well, but they wanted to keep this to 100 counters or whatever it is. It really did not get the component support that the game needs. It's an intriguing idea. Combat is a pain in the butt to remember, but if you follow the little procedural recipe, you can get through it and do it correctly, I guess. But everything else, you know, the movement and everything, juggling the units, all the die rolls for all the movement and everything, it is really, it makes a lot of demands on the player in terms of stuff that's not really the strategy or anything. But I do find the design interesting so far. All right, let's send this up.